to go until the first votes are cast in the 2016 municipal elections, the Electoral Commission is pleased to report that all logistic preparations are on track for this highly anticipated elections. In respect of special votes, the Electoral Commission has received over 740,000 applications for special votes in the 2016 municipal elections. This is more than 3 times the number of special votes received in 2011 in a similar election, and nearly twice that number as received in the 2014 national and provincial elections. Of the 741,720 applications received, 719,225 were approved. This includes 315,597 special vote applications representing 44% for home visits, and 403,628 applications for special votes to be cast at the voting stations. This is 56%. Special votes will be cast on the 1st and the 2nd of August 2016. Election officials will visit the addresses provided by voters who applied for home visits, while those who applied to cast a special vote at the voting stations must do so between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. On Monday, the 1st of August, and Tuesday, the 2nd of August. You will notice that these special voting times are different from the voting hours that the Commission has determined for these elections, which will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on election day. A voter whose application for a special vote was approved, but who for whatever reason was unable to cast a special vote may still cast a special ballot at the voting station on election day. The Electoral Commission notes that the increase in the applications for special votes is an encouraging sign of significant voter interest in the 2016 municipal elections. But it's also a reflection of the simplification and accessibility of the application process, which for the first time allowed voters to apply online and via SMS. Over 95,000 applications, representing approximately 13% of the special votes applications, were received online, and over 208,000 were received via SMS. This is 28%. In respect of Tlokwe, we are pleased to report that at a meeting yesterday of the Party Liaison Committee held in Tlokwe, arrangements were reached, or understanding was reached with all parties and candidates on the steps taken by the Electoral Commission to obtain addresses for voters as per the Constitutional Court judgment that was handed down on the 14th of June 2016. With the cooperation of various parties and candidates, the elections in Tlokwe, and the new municipality there, you would know, it's called NW405, and includes Tlokwe as we know it today, as well as Ventersdorp. Now, in this new municipality, we are confident that elections will now proceed smoothly as planned on 3 August 2016. During yesterday's PLC meeting, we gave parties the breakdown of the extraordinary efforts we have gone to in order to capture addresses for all voters in this municipality. These included opening voting stations over 2 additional weekends to give registered voters a chance to provide their addresses. We also made over 11,000 calls to voters to obtain addresses or to remind them to visit their voting stations in these areas. We even used loud hailers on the back of vans and trucks to drive around voting districts in Tlokwe, accompanied by field workers to promote the need for addresses. When we began our initiatives, out of a total of 116,321 voters in this new municipality out of that 116,321, 21,515 of them did not have addresses. Since then, we have managed to collect 18,401 addresses. We now have addresses for 86% of the voters in Tlokwe. The Electoral Commission wishes to thank the following institutions who assisted in the collection of addresses. And these are Telkom, the Department of Home Affairs, Statistics South Africa, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the South African Social Security Agency, and the Tlokwe municipality for availing data to the Electoral Commission. There have been many other partners that have walked this journey with us, and to all of them, we are very grateful. We also want to thank all the voters who participated and responded to our calls to come forward and give us their addresses or sufficient particularities. In respect of the printing of the ballot paper, the printing of this ballot is in full swing. This is one of the most complex logistics exercises for any election. We have to make sure that the correct ballot in these elections go to the correct voting stations. We are approximately halfway through the printing process and distributing of the approximately 73 million ballot papers that we need in this election. A comprehensive quality assurance plan is in place at all the contracted printing works to ensure that correctness and the security of ballot papers during this production process is not missed. 3 provinces, namely the Eastern Cape, Northwest, and KwaZulu-Natal, have already had their ballot papers completed and fully delivered. The last ballots will be delivered over this coming weekend. And I must pause here and say, in an election, your logistical exercise is a significant part of the journey you walk in that election. Many election administrators will tell you the greatest challenge in an election, it's when you run out of time to do these things. And I think we are very happy to say that we are running on schedule and in many places ahead of schedule. We will not complete this exercise of briefing you if we don't talk about the code of conduct and the complaints we have received. The Electoral Commission has to date received 12 complaints of violations to the Electoral Code of Conduct. Of these, 2 have been withdrawn due to a lack of evidence. The remaining 10 complaints are still under investigation by the newly established Directorate for Electoral Offences. Where possible, these cases will be referred for mediation between parties, and if necessary, there will be other interventions as may be appropriate. However, where sufficient evidence of serious violations are found, cases will be referred to the Electoral Court. We will no doubt refer them there when they require to go to the Electoral Court. The nature of the complaints varies between allegations of intimidation and political violence, incitement, along with advertising and poster-related violations, and allegations of the use of state resources in campaigning. The Electoral Commission will be harvesting addresses on Election Day. I'd like to announce that this initiative of harvesting addresses on Election Day will be undertaken as one of the extraordinary measures that we undertake as the Commission to deal with the challenges earlier identified by the Court. You are familiar with the ruling of the Constitutional Court, which effectively gave the Electoral Commission a grace period of 2 years to rectify the voters' roll to ensure that it includes addresses of voters who had registered after the 17th of December 2003, where such addresses are available or objectively available. However, there were two caveats to this grace period. The first was Tlokwe, which we have already spoken about, and the second is the voters' roll for all by-elections after the 2016 municipal elections, which must contain all of those addresses where they are objectively available. As part of our work in meeting our obligations in Tlokwe, we have seen how difficult it can be to collect addresses and to encourage voters to come forward to provide their addresses. On election day, on the 3rd of August, we hope at least 17 million voters will visit voting stations to cast their ballots in the municipal elections. Of course, we want all 26.3 million registered voters to come out and vote in these elections. This is a unique opportunity for us and for voters to provide or update their addresses. This initiative will not affect the voting process in any way. Voting will continue as planned, and all voters who are on the voters' roll for that voting station will be allowed to vote whether they have an address list listed or not. But we will be encouraging any voter for whom an address is not listed to please come and address and provide us with that address in the process of their voting before they leave on that day. This will be a voluntary process, but we're appealing to voters that with their cooperation, a couple of extra minutes, we can make a massive improvement to the voters' roll in a single day, and at the same time save significant resources in a time of austerity and limited public funding. We appeal to everyone to please help us to maintain a voters' roll which contains addresses of voters where these are available. We thank you very much indeed. Chairperson, I will hand over to you, and then we will take questions hereafter.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Yes, thank you, CEO, for such a comprehensive update about the status of our readiness and our preparation to the upcoming local government elections. Ladies and gentlemen, may I take this opportunity on behalf of the Electoral Commission to express our perspective regarding the environment that is conducive to free and fair elections. That the Commission regards this as a very important aspect of our preparations for the election. And in this regard, the Commission wishes to raise our deep concern over the level of violence leading up to these local government elections. We condemn in the strongest terms the latest incidents of election-related violence and the other violation of the Electoral Code of Conduct, which have included the murder of a number of candidates for the municipal elections, the upcoming municipal elections. The Electoral Commission wishes to express its deepest sympathy and condolences to the families of those affected by these acts of political violence. And this upsurge in the violence in certain areas of our country, especially in KwaZulu-Natal and in Mpumalanga, is something that we find loathsome attempt to disrupt the campaigning for the upcoming elections. And we, as the Electoral Commission, remain committed that there will be no derailing of us realizing the constitutional imperative of delivering the elections on time. And therefore the Commission calls on the various structures throughout the country that are responsible in the security cluster, as well as in ensuring that there's mediation on the provincial level. But we further acknowledge and urge such structures such as the provincial joints in KZN that they must remain vigilant as the recent discussions and engagements that we've held with the provincial leadership to look into the issues of ensuring that the elections go smoothly in the province. And the Electoral Commission further urges and calls on the leaders of all political parties and all free-loving South Africans to speak out strongly against any acts of violence and intimidation, and to protect our hard-won democratic ideal from those individuals who would see our nation regress if they succeed with such acts. And we condemn these crimes, that they are not just against individuals that have been affected, but are against the very fabric of our society and our way of life. And they must not be allowed to undermine the gains we've made as a nation. And we as a commission, we remain and continue to be committed in ensuring that we will use all the resources and the support structures and systems at our disposal in ensuring that the environment that is conducive to free and fair elections is realized. And we finally urge all South Africans to prepare themselves to participate fully in the up and coming elections. And for the political parties, we wish them to well in their campaigns, and that they should also ensure and assist that everything runs smoothly for us to be in a position to have free and fair elections. And thank you.
Thank you so much, CEO and Chairperson. I'm going to open the floor for questions. If you may please introduce yourself and then ask the question. I'm going to start with the first round of questions so that we can allow the IEC panel to respond. I see a question. All right. Let me start at this side. Aldrin, next door to you, there's a question. Let me start there. I'll come that way and then go to the other side. Okay. Yes, please proceed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Aldrin Cynthia from SABC TV News. On the political violence that's currently taking place in KZN, about 13 people killed over the past 4 months. Does the IEC not feel that this is probably time to disqualify the ANC from participating in elections in KwaZulu-Natal concerning the political environment that the party finds itself in terms of having a conducive environment for the elections? And on the ballot papers, some of these candidates who have been killed are ANC ward candidates. The ballot papers in KZN have now been printed, which would mean that the faces of those people who have now been killed will still be on the ballot papers. What's the process going forward? On election day, the names and the pictures will be there, but the person won't be there. What happens after the elections? What happens after August the 3rd?
Thank you. Let me take another question.
Nicholas Barr from UCA. Just to add on Alvin's question, what special precautions are you taking to ensure that political violence in Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal and indeed anywhere else isn't going to affect your preparations and indeed the votes on August the 3rd? Have you taken any special precautions, maybe entered into special negotiations with the police or anything like that? And just if you could extrapolate a little bit more on your address harvesting on August the 3rd, what precautions are you taking to ensure that the information that is provided to you by voters on voting day is actually their addresses? Are they going to need to bring proof of addresses and the like, or what is going to happen?
Good day, my name is Molo Kumulota from Power FM. 2 questions. One relates to the complaint that you received regarding the violation of the Electoral Code. Most of those 12 or 10 now complaints that were made, who happens to be which part are many people complaining against? Secondly, did you have areas which were probably no-go areas for you as you went on preparing for this registrations, going into the elections? For instance, I was in Vuane just last week in one village which has been identified as a hotspot by the SABC called Fairgrove. Residents there say that they will not welcome you as the IEC to conduct the elections.
Thank you. Let me allow the IEC panel to respond before we take the last round.
Yes, no, thank you very much. With respect to the first question, our Vice Chair will respond to that. And with respect to the questions that came from Nicholas, I will request that the CEO deals with those two questions, and the last one that came from Mr. Muloko. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and members of the Commission. On the issue of whether it is not time for us to disqualify any political party, I think there is an assumption there. There is an assumption that there is an established fact that the particular political party responsible for the violation of the Code of Conduct. As we indicated earlier on, there is a process through which we go in order to establish the facts around each and every case and deal with those issues appropriately. Now, you may be also aware that in terms of the structures that we've put in place, the Commission on its own cannot disqualify a political party. A political party can only be disqualified by the Electoral Court after a matter has been taken to the Electoral Court and issues argued there, and ultimately the Electoral Court believing that disqualification is the only appropriate mechanism to deal with the issue of the violation by that particular political party. But also, I think it's also important to indicate that from our side, as the chairperson indicated, there are particular mechanisms that we have put in place in order to deal with these violations. One of them is obviously the establishment of office dealing with electoral offenses, and that office is functioning, and we will be able to deal with those issues as and when they are brought to our attention. And then also, in certain instances, we will initiate based on our own experiences and information that we have gathered on our own.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I think, you know, and it is important, you know, the issue raised by the Vice Chair in relation to disqualifications of parties. It's a very, very important matter that, you know, particularly us in the media and, you know, yourselves in the media and us at the Electoral Commission need to get it completely correctly. The IEC has no power in law to disqualify anybody, but we may even approach the Electoral Court ourselves where a violation has been reported. It is only the Electoral Court that has authority on a matter properly presented to them with the relevant facts that they will come to a determination. Disqualification is not the only remedy that can be provided in those circumstances. And I think it's very, very important. You know, we receive that quite a lot to say, disqualify so-and-so. We simply don't have authority in law to do so. In relation to what initiatives are being taken in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga, the Vice Chair also dealt with this matter, but I think it's important that we remind all of us that the Electoral Commission works in quite a number of structures. One is we have worked with yourselves in the media to brief you about the challenges that we believe exist in these elections and to tell you about what we are doing. And it's an important part of the media knowing exactly where we are and what we are dealing with. The second thing is we have established conflict panels across the country. These are initiatives that are aimed at dealing with issues of conflict in their infancy, whilst they are as they develop, we deal with them at that level. In other words, being proactive so that these things don't, grow into something that is not manageable. Thirdly, we have party liaison committees in all spheres of government that are meeting very regularly. Earlier today, in this very same room, we were meeting with a party liaison committee in the national sphere of government. Fourthly, the issue of the Directorate for Electoral Offences has been established. We have taken out adverts. We are communicating that extensively to members of the public, to political parties, to yourselves in the media, to say whenever there are violations to the electoral code that you pick up, these are the simple steps you need to take to report them and bring them to our attention. The fifth thing that I wanted to point out is that we are working even with the security establishments of the country. You will know that the mandate to secure this nation is with the security establishments. And to the extent that they identify threats, or we identify threats, we exchange these things, and we say to them, give us assurances or work at these things, and let's deal with them. A good example is what the chairperson was indicating earlier on, where he spent a week in KwaZulu-Natal engaging with all of the structures, parties, civil society organizations, security establishment, and all of those to deal with these issues comprehensively. I trust that that deals with the initiatives we are taking. What precautions are we going to take to ensure that addresses we are provided in Trogwe, amongst others, or on election day, are accurate? I want to remind us that the court was clear on this matter. Voters do not necessarily need to provide a proof of residence. In other words, a utility bill or anything of the sort. But they have to understand that they must provide their address, or an address that represents their ordinary place of residence. Where there is no such conventional address, they need to give us sufficient particularities. This is a sworn statement. And so there are implications if you lie almost under oath, I want to say. And we will deal with those issues if we get to know that people have misrepresented the truth in that respect. Which parties laid the complaints? In terms of the violations of the Electoral Code of Conduct, we have complaints from the DA, from the EFF, from the ANC, and from the PAC. We also have complaints that have been lodged by independents, as well as, yes, one lodged by a citizen through the Human Rights Commission. Those are the kind of complaints that we have. I must indicate to you that you and us are sitting here and briefing each other. I noticed when I took a break just before I came here that there were 2 letters in my office that may eventually be complaints. So this is not a static thing. Yeah. It's something that is progressing. But it is important to realize that there are matters that are being dealt with, and the process is serious. It's a serious process that deals with them. The issue of residents that plan not to welcome us on election day, 2 things really. One is we don't sit and say what are they saying, and we hope they'll change their mind. There's an ongoing process of engagement. If it was advertising, I would say to you it's above the board and below, yeah. Above the line and below the line advertising. We are engaging South Africa in the best interest of the elections. It is not our desire, and we don't sit back and say, we will work with everything that we have to ensure that free and fair elections are held in this country, and we will engage everyone necessary for us to realize that environment. So that's a situation that changes every day. but we, dynamic as it might be, we deal with it as we ought to deal with it. I thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. And the vice chair would like to add on the question of the addresses.
Yeah, on this issue of the addresses, I think it is important for us to indicate this. The legislation requires a person to register where they are ordinarily resident. And the people from whom we want addresses are people who are already registered. So it is not new registrations that we are talking about. These people are already located within a voting district. And then all we require is information that will assist us to be able to say that indeed these people are correctly located in line with the legislation. If a person gives an address that is outside that voting district, obviously that person runs a risk of invalidating their own vote. So it is important for people to understand, give us correct information. We want to make sure that you are correctly registered and that the voting district where you are located is indeed where you are resident. I thought I should emphasize this particular aspect because these are not new registration, but just getting addresses for people who are already in the system.
Okay. There's just one more question that we skipped. CEO?
Yes, it was brought to my attention that there was a question relating to persons on the ballot paper who may regrettably have passed away before election day. This is not a new phenomenon, and we regret, as the Electoral Commission, to have situations like that. But as you would know, this is not something we have the power to control. Once the election timetable has kicked in, it directs all of us to act in terms of activity related to the finalization of candidates on the ballot. And there is a point in terms of that election timetable where we regrettably cannot change it. We have no provision in law to remove those people, and so they remain on the ballot, sadly. We've had situations where persons on the roll who are deceased have been voted into office as councillors. And in those instances, we do have a by-election. In instances where such persons are on the proportional representation list of a certain party and they are elected, the party has the opportunity to bring someone, once we are at the point where seats are allocated in terms of the results of an election. The other matter that has been drawn to my attention is that in Tlokwe, we have enabled parties and independent candidates to have a copy of the voters' roll and to check this copy. Very encouraging thing on the weekend of the 9th and the 10th of July, when we were in that municipality, many of the teams, as you know, we went through every household in that municipality. Many of our teams were accompanied by political parties across the spectrum, as well as independent candidates. And that is an initiative for which we will always be grateful. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay.
Let me take the last round of questions before we wrap up for the afternoon, if there are any of this. Okay. I'm going to start here with Kai and then 1, then 3. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. It's Kaya Kumale here from Kaya Family News. Just to get a bit of clarity from the IEC, quite a number of structures in KwaZulu-Natal have been calling for a commission of inquiry, just to establish some of the reasons behind the spate of killings. So what would be the IEC's view on that score? And just regarding some of your workers, some of the political parties have been raising concerns about some of your workers being SATU members. So the issue of credibility, what's the IEC's take? And maybe just the last one, in terms of the observer mission, would you perhaps have, say, EU observer mission or even SADC? Thank you.
I was just wondering regarding those that have breached or been accused of breaching the code of conduct. What's the likelihood that we could possibly see any action being taken against political parties? It seems like you're explaining that there are procedures in place, but is there a possibility that something will be done? How far are the investigations, or are we more likely to see action being taken after the elections, perhaps? And just for a second one, I just wanted to understand why the gap between the 17 million that you say you're anticipating to be voting in the upcoming elections versus the 26 that's registered. Why such a discrepancy
Thanks, Simpiwe. Let me take the last question.
Anticipation of how many people will come.
Ms. Aldrin again from the SABC. Just back on the question around disqualifying a party like the ANC at the moment. The IEC has continuously called for calm. The IEC has continuously called for political parties not to engage in violence. And it seems that none of what's happening in KZN, that call is not being hit at the moment. The IEC has the powers to go to the electoral court and lay a complaint against the ANC. Why isn't the IEC not doing that? Why isn't the IEC taking the ANC to task with regards to what's currently happening in KwaZulu-Natal? And then the final question will be around the special votes. The EFF has previously raised concerns that when special votes are being cast at homes, there are no party agents allowed. Will that change this time around? Or I don't know if that party has accepted that there's no time to change the rules with regards to special votes being cast at homes.
Thank you so much. Let me allow the panel to answer questions. First one, structures.
Okay. I think with respect to the questions about KZN and the inquiry, I would request the VC to respond so that we're consistent with that matter, and also to deal with the issue of the SATU and the observers. And then if the CEO can respond to the issues that were raised by Simpiwe on the what to call
The bridging of the
the breaches and the voting gap issue, and as well as the what to call the issue of the EFF and the votes. The issue of from Aldrin of the disqualification, I'll link it to the first question from with Kaya, where it's the same question on disqualification. If you can deal with those. Thanks, Vice.
Thank you very much. Our focus, as mandated by the Constitution, is to ensure that there are free and fair elections. We've got to work very hard to make sure that the environment within which these elections are going to be taking place is such that we can have free and fair elections. So whatever mechanism that are being developed anywhere in the country, which are aimed at arresting the situation that we're currently facing, is welcome. We have indicated from our side what are the kind of mechanisms that we are putting in place in order to deal with the pockets of instability and violence that we're experiencing in our country. And therefore, if, as part of creating an environment, a commission is established and it's able to deal with the issues, we will welcome it. Obviously, we have not applied our minds as a commission to say what are the kind of the things that we're going to be doing in case a commission is established. But we will welcome any initiative aimed at assisting us in terms of the creation of environment conducive to free and fair elections. Now, the issue of SATU has arisen in quite a number of our conversations. We have engaged with the political party on this issue, and there is an understanding right now that the Commission has taken steps to increase the number of people who are unemployed to fill the ranks of the Commission. If you look at our electoral staff right now, the majority of people who are part of our processes are not even teachers. teachers constitute less than 8% of our electoral staff. So there has really been a significant movement in terms of reducing the number of teachers or people who are employed, and trying to ensure that those people who are not employed are able to find an opportunity to be part of this process. We will continue with that. And I think in our last engagement with the political parties, there was this understanding that the Commission has done all it can to try to deal with this aspect, and will continue to do so. But it is important for me to indicate that we do not have a relationship with South African Democratic Teachers Union. We don't employ people submitted by any trade union. So the issue of SADU is used in a generic sense to refer to teachers. And as I've indicated, the number of teachers that we employ, we have reduced it to a substantial level, and we are satisfied thus far going into these elections that the numbers have reduced.
Observers.
And on the issue of observers is one of the most important instruments that we are using to secure the integrity of the elections. And therefore, there will be observers for these elections. We have already received indication of some domestic observers as well as international observers who intend observing the elections. And we will ensure that they are accredited and are able to assist us in terms of ensuring that the integrity of the election is safeguarded.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I've received through the Directorate for Electoral Offences, what are the possibilities of some of those going all the way to the Electoral Court? There's always that possibility. And in fact, we want, where there is evidence, we will, as we have indicated, we will not hesitate. Those matters will go. Matters in various stages of investigation, one must be always careful to deal with them. We've indicated to you that on account of the evidence necessary, 2 of them have been withdrawn. And the party that put them says, well, it's working, this process is working. We were also testing whether it works. And, you know, and that we are pleased about. There are 1 or 2 matters that, you know, are close to finalization, and we may determine an outcome one way or the other, whether we go to court or the matters don't proceed to court. We'll keep you updated openly about this. You also asked a very difficult question about 17 million and not 23. I said both. I said, you know, we know, and let's be real, we know that, you know, not every South African registered in an election turns out to vote. A call we make, it's clear. We want every one of them to come. But we've always been open with yourselves in the media to say that, you know, we are aiming at a certain level, you know. I want to aim at 26.3 million. Those are the numbers of people that are on the voters' roll. But I, you know, receiving, you know, at least 17 million of that will make me feel, you know, it's not too bad. But every one of them we do want. The question in respect of the IEC taking the matter to court, you know, matters to court, and you raise an issue about a party in a province. We had a meeting earlier on today here, and you know, my colleague, the PO in KwaZulu-Natal, the provincial electoral officer, is seized with these matters, and we get a regular update. I think it's important to say this. Where matters are being investigated by the police, let us give them space to do that work. I don't know, you know, and I give you an example. The ANC, for example, has been complaining that the people being killed are their candidates. And that, there are people that are doing this. This is a complaint that is being considered. You are saying disqualify them. They are saying we are victims. You say there are issues like that that are fairly complex, and there's a process in law that can come to a determination. The only thing we are asking is let that process unfold, and we are engaging with that process. The issue of agents, we have dealt with that matter, and you will be very pleased to know that even the party that had raised the issue, you indicated the EFF had raised that issue. We have a clear understanding with them. The Commission met with them. We addressed the issues of concern that they had, and the process is pretty simple. We have received the special vote applications that I've indicated to you. It's not a secret. What we are going to do is we are now allocating those special votes per voting station to a staff member of the Electoral Commission that will be going out, a team. It's 2 people from the Electoral Commission that will take X amount of special votes for home visitations. We will openly, at the party liaison committee in that municipality, the local party liaison committee, we will share those lists with political parties with a view to them attaching party agents for each one of those visits. There is a clear understanding. It is then up to a political party to say, in this voting district, where the IEC has 12 teams, we will have 12 sets of party agents, or we only have 5 sets, and the process proceeds. The only limitations that exist in that situation is the interest of the voter must always be taken into account. There are people who are in a situation that is very difficult, where not all of us can go in there, and in those instances, there will be understanding. And we have no difference with the EFF, for example, on that issue. The matter is dealt with, and it's not an issue anymore. On the issue of SADTU, a chairperson, or teachers, or whatever, you'll be pleased to know that this is also a matter that the Commission has sought to deal with very deeply. And for that reason, the Commission took an extraordinary measure late in the day as it was. It allowed the process of objecting to our staff to be reopened. That process was closed. We had reopened that process, and this week is the final week of dealing with it. Parties at the local level are dealing with that, and we have not heard anything adverse in that situation. And I think this should give you an idea about how seriously we in the Commission take these issues and seek to deal with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CEO.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank the IEC panel for this first briefing. Ladies and gentlemen from the media, once more, thank you very much for honoring this appointment. We're just getting better. I think from now onwards, it's going to be a very steep hill as we proceed with countdown to elections. Thank you very much for coming to the IEC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Well done.
Sure.
Yeah,
What a pleasure.